But strangely enough, there is left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's
never been seen by a human being.
The best is yet to come.
Honestly, today, I think that in these psyops that there are cover-ups within cover-ups, and there are red herrings.
Houston, we have a problem.
We destroyed that technology.
People should not be walking around with masks.
That stuff is flat.
There's your flu last year. Here's your flu this year.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Hibbeler Effect. Tonight on the show, I have Maryam Henein. She is an investigative journalist and founder and editor-in-chief of the health magazine and marketplace Honey Colony, which I love. Go check them out. They got the best products. I got some silver from them. Insane. This ain't shit on Amazon, guys. Also, she's a functional medicine consultant and coach and the director of the award-winning documentary film Vanishing of the Bees, narrated by Elliot Page. She also just released The Real Timeline, which I know my audience knows about, the story of the death of George Floyd, the real story of it. Go check that out too. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Maryam Henein, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. And, I just wanted to start off with, I got a lot of good feedback from the film we did together, the Real Timeline. And because we're on YouTube, the first 20 minutes, we're streaming YouTube and Rockfin, but we're YouTube 20 minutes, 25 minutes today, because we really can't dig too deep into that story on this platform, unfortunately. But, we'll briefly discuss a little bit of it. But at the same time, once we go over to Rockfin, we're going to dive right in, obviously, because there's some crazy stuff about that story. But before we begin, let everybody know who you are in your own words and what you've been through and what you're doing and where you're at now in life, because you've had that. Now, don't take an hour because it's probably more than an hour, but right. Let's summarize it for my audience that goes, who is this? Tell them who you are.
I'll truncate it. I hail from Montreal, Canada. I'm Egyptian Greek. And like you said, I'm an investigative journalist, not a prostitute or a parrot. I'm not a media whore. I did start my career in Los Angeles working at MSNBC in Burbank, worked for many magazines, left MSNBC and was freelancing, and then did this B movie and really woke up to big ag and how adulterated our food supply is. And then shortly after, I was hit by an SUV and dragged 50 feet. And as a Canadian, had no health insurance and really woke up to Western medicine. Yeah. And then the bees flew into my life and woke up to big ag. And then I got poisoned. So I became kind of like an environmental indicator and really had to use my investigative skills to heal, and left the mainstream and have been covering medical freedom. We know what that means, since 2012. So I was, it was no surprise, the Rona regime. Yeah. And since then, which we can get into a little bit more, I've been really targeted. And I say, when your Wikipedia page is co-opted and you lose your PayPal, Venmo, Vimeo, Twitter, Airbnb, Instacart, Amazon.
Yeah, some of you guys think you're canceled because they banned your post on YouTube or they banned your Instagram for a week or something. This woman has been banned and censored from platforms that I couldn't even believe could ban you. She has been censored. Explain in PG form, again, YouTube, but explain to my audience why are they censoring Maryam Henein?
Yeah, I want to say also that in 2020 of March, they launched an operation that still people don't know about by the FDA, the FTC, and the DOJ called Operation Quack Hack. That's the real name of the operation. They went after Alex Jones, Dustin Nemos, myself for selling the silver that you used, for using the word prevention. I was also one of the first in the online space to offer CBD before I say everyone and their mother. And it so happens that the synthetic CBD is involved with the Bayer, which I blew the whistle on in my film. I think really like being an influence as far as my voice, but also saying like, I'm 50 years old. I got hit by an SUV. I reversed lupus. I'm a licensed functional medicine. I'm also a journalist. And so all those things together is danger, because to really influence someone like that chick's 50, she reversed lupus. Like, I don't even believe that's possible. So to really inspire and educate, that's my mission. And people have paid a price when they go after your livelihood. Like, I think I've told you, the person that does MMS, Mark Brennan is still in jail for Operation Quack Hack. And there's Americans, and I was saying this in 2018, they're like, you're a Roseanne Barr fan? I said, I'm a freedom of speech fan. Roseanne Barr today, you tomorrow. And here we are. And so it's kind of like being an environmental indicator, like to be like, hey, this is what's possible to all of us if we don't stand together as individuals. Like, right, it's an attack, as you know, Sean, after the individual. They want it, like, you think you're an individual, but the only thing individual about you is your purple hair. Like,
and that's what they want. This is the world they set up for us, unfortunately. But with people like you reach so many audiences with all of these rabbit holes you're knocking down. And in the process, I think we can get into this. It's fine. Where did the George Floyd saga begin for you? Again, we don't have to be descriptive. You know what I mean by some of the stuff we'll get into later. But, you know, overall, without a bunch of trigger words,
right?
How did this saga start? Because you go from Vanishing of the Bees, which that did really well, and then what? Netflix removed that, no? Or who removed that?
Yeah, actually, when Obama took over indirectly or directly from Netflix, it was the #1 streaming film, and then they took it off of streaming. And who's going to order like old school? Like what? Yeah. So yeah, it was taken off of there, but it was the #1 film, which is a pretty good feat because it was $1 million budget, but we didn't have all of the support. If you look at the credits, it's really just George Langworthy and me. And then we had small handful of executive producers. And so to answer your question, I didn't think I was going to make another film. I told myself, because it was 5 years. It was really a long time.
Well, before you get into George, hold on, let me interrupt. For my audience first of all, thanks for all the donations for Level With Me, guys. We're almost there. We're almost done. But I get some comments once in a while that are like, oh my God, you're trying to raise $20,000 to make a documentary. I'm like, hold on. And now you're just like, hey, I'm independent. We shot Vanishing of the Bees, which is great, by the way. I'm saying, but you're like $1 million and it was barely enough to get, it's like 20 grand. I just want to throw that out there. So,
well, I can empathize with you because I'm an award-winning filmmaker and I'm still trying to raise $15,000 for the George Floyd film.
Yeah, it's hard now. Well, I mean, they corrupted this entire economy and system, and everyone is trying to figure out what to do with their life in the future. So that's why it's like, if I can make it work with that, I will, which, you know how it is, traveling and hotels and all the stuff and equipment. It's like, oh my God. So, that's just some of it, guys. That's not all of it. So it's like one of these things where when I hear $1 million, it's like, holy shit. Yeah.
I want to say that at the time, I was one of the first, let's say, filmmakers to use Indiegogo, to use Kickstarter. And they were platforms that you could fund without seeing like, oh, good GoFundMe, which I've been banned from, is financed by Excel Partners, which also finances Spotify, which is biotech, and really see who's behind the players. And now it's like Kiva. When I was trying to raise money for CBD, they lent me, Kiva's like micro lending. So I got a $10,000 loan. And because they didn't want to be associated with CBD, this was like the just early perklings of woke culture without even knowing it was woke culture. Yeah. That Kiva told me basically, you don't need to pay me back the $10,000. They scrubbed me from their site because they didn't want any association with CBD.
Wow.
And just like, look now where it's saturated and most of it is shit, but yet it's so accepted.
So who, because I use GoFundMe for the last couple of films. I won't use them anymore. I don't really know much about it. I just know it's easy. People always say it's the easiest one to use. Well,
right.
What should I use for next year? I probably will make another film, obviously. But
I used Give, Send, Go, and even that, honestly, I got throttled. There were days that I got throttled on that during the trucker convoy. There would do a big show, and then my page would have 404s, and then I recently found out they take money from Stripe, right? So there was some, I think, patriot conservative where Give, Send, Go held the money, but it was Stripe holding the money. And this is what we saw with Steven Crowder, like saying, you want to be different, you want to be paving the way for non-censorship, but you're still within the confines of the system, right? And the truth is, when you go behind the scenes, it's the same players, even though it's the face of freedom.
Yeah. Well, it's good to know. I won't use them anymore. I never heard about that, but continuing. So you go from Vanishing of the Bees. That's getting taken down. You're getting censored. You're getting banned from everything I've ever heard. What happened from that point to stumbling upon the George Floyd saga? How was that journey for you? Like what happened that you go, hold on, I have to investigate this? Oh my God. What was that moment? Where that
started? Was really after Vanishing of the Bees, I launched Honey Colony and was a disruptor in the nutraceutical space and was doing the whole trying to find VC seed capital money. And then my business partner at the time invested in the company, and we were doing 500,000 unique visitors. I've created an empire with my magazine of SEO, and then training myself and the team of how to write for the internet, which is different, and really placating and answering to Google and wanting to appease them. And then actually I think it was 2015 or 2016, we started seeing these algorithmic changes and seeing our traffic and blaming ourselves, which is interesting because you always blame kind of yourself. Like even in Vanishing of the Bees, initially the beekeepers blame themselves all independently. Yeah. And then I learned that there was it was called the medic update, AKA your money, your life. So anybody that falls under basically trying to empower you could be considered that. And we started losing traffic. And now today, of course, there's no such thing as organic traffic, just like there's no organic food. It's all with the search, it's suggestive auto suggestions. And I minored in psychology, and you can look that auto suggestions is a very simple but powerful mind control tool. Because if your perception is compromised, how can you make a discernment or come to a conclusion, as you know, with the topics that you cover, which are hidden, but also, as you know, it's taken a sharp decline. You know, there's always been yellow journalism, but now because of big tech. So basically big tech, I started investigating techno-fascism, a term that I popularized. I hear Jason Burmis use every day. I don't know if you follow Jason Burmis. He covers transhumanism.
I've seen some of his stuff on Rockman.
It's this great work. So I was really focused on building my company and the magazine. So I was writing kind of like from a biohacking, functional medicine point of view. And then when the Rona hit, and having already a room on Twitter of covering vaccines since Del Bigtree put out Vaxxed, I put everything aside and maybe as a result didn't run the company. Well, I wasn't running the company because I'm a journalist. That was never part of our agreement. Yeah, I was, but for reasons I was dealing with, like predatory loans, and we lost so much money because all the processors were constantly shutting us down, like QuickBooks, Square, Stripe, blah, blah, blah. And let's say so then I just was covering pretty much 12 hours a day, left to the jungle, and was covering here, the Rona with Zach Voorhees. And
you could just say the flu.
Okay.
Same thing.
The flu. The flu.
The flu. And it gives you trigger words.
Okay. Yeah, the Rona is a trigger word now?
Wow. On my channel, I probably got to censor out the documentary you named.
So when May 25th happened, 2020, I was in the jungle, and the Google whistleblower, Zach Voorhees, said, Mimi, which is my nickname, Mimi, can you come and choke me? And I was like, what? And he's like, I'm doing the GF challenge to see if you can breathe while someone's on your neck. So I hesitantly stepped on his neck, and he could talk. So that's kind of how it started. I'm trying to keep it PG. But I think for me, it wasn't, let's say, I won't speak for you, but seeing the signature of the signature of what is on here, because those signatures, which we can get into, is like, we were here, right? Yeah. I was looking at it more like, wait a second, I'm a journalist. And of course, let's remember, it wasn't so blatant the way it is now in 2023, the media lies, and it just went to disgusting low levels. So I was still like, what? So just real quick to say,
so you bought it at first. Yeah, I mean, at first you bought.
No, I didn't.
Initially,
did I buy it at first?
Yeah, I mean, the day of or the week of, everybody's talking about it. Like, were you like, oh, piece of shit cops? Like, why are they doing that to this guy? I mean, did you?
I wasn't piece of shit cops. I was really was like, did he die from that action? And I was not getting on a bandwagon. Yeah. I knew enough to be like, they're manufacturing something. And so early on, I called the medical examiner because I told Zach, well, if we want to know how he died, I need to call the coroner's office. Yeah. And in LA, I've been to the coroner's, to the morgue. It was, I rode with homicide cops, and it was, I've always had kind of a fascination with death and death industry. So anyway, so I called the medical examiner, and they said it's going to take, quote, weeks and weeks and weeks. And then literally 2 hours later, there's preliminary reports on CNN. And I'm like, what the F is going on? They just told me. And it looked like it was sowing discord. And so it's interesting, because I started delving into all the El Nuevo and Maya and all of this stuff, which honestly today, I think that in these psyops that there are cover-ups within cover-ups, and there are red herrings, specifically because a real journalist will go above and beyond and pierce that veil. And there might be truth to that, to those players and the shadiness, because they're players in this psyop. But I think ultimately it's the government and the media, which is now one and the same.
One and the same. And with my extensive research, I mean, they've been one and the same since the media has been rolled out. I think it's been one and the same since televisions have rolled out to the public. It was all because of the propaganda and how they can shape the world they want. So they, to control the whole world, you have to control their mind, and that's the tool they use. And CIA's admitted, I mean, this is their handiwork. These psyops, these propaganda, they come in, they put some of the truth in the movies, and they tell you nothing but fibs on the news. And you're confused thinking, well, I just left a movie. That's fantasy. That's BS. It's just a movie. That would never happen in real life. Yet they're doing this in real life to us, and they're planting these seeds in movies. It's pretty obvious with George Floyd, at least for my directly my audience. I don't think anyone in my audience would buy that freaking psyop, but for people that really aren't a part of my audience that are watching this, and again, before we get off pretty soon here to go to Rockfin to get into the dirty details, what was one of the first things you researched? You looked it up and you go, oh my God, this is shady as fuck right now. Oh my, like, that feeling of like, like the nervousness feeling. It's like when I first time I watched Eric Dubé's 200 Proofs. It was that feeling of you got hit in the face with something that you can't get out of it, and you're like, I can't look away now. I have to do something about it. I have to move forward and continue with this. I wasn't watching this for nothing. Was it something you watched, or was it something just in your head that you're like, wait a minute now, and then you went from there?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I want to tell the audience how I came across you. I don't know if you should wait to rock.
No, you can, because we're getting off soon. Just, if there's anything
I'll
crazy.
say this also. Yeah. So then, I call the medical examiner and they tell me that, oh yeah. So then the next day, it must have been the 27th, I see the supposed sister and Bridget, and she's doing
Floyd's supposed sister.
Sorry?
George Floyd's supposed sister.
Yes, supposed.
Yeah, just for my audience, so
yes,
they know. Yeah.
Bridget Floyd. And I do pattern recognition, and I like to say I see things that most people don't. And so I saw that she was wearing "I Can't Breathe" t-shirt. So I said, where'd you get that shtick, honey? Where'd you get that? If everything's locked down, are print shops essential? Because it became the crying, and it just so happened what would come to mind when I wear a mask for me, I can't breathe. Yeah. So I'm like, are you going to tell me that that's just a coincidence? And so I went to look, and I just did "I Can't Breathe," Benjamin Crump, George Floyd. And I was like, what? Eric Garner, who is also represented by Benjamin Crump, also said "I can't breathe" 11 times in 2014. Hold up. Wait a second. Something is
put the brakes on. You're like, wait a minute. And guys, we do have some juicy details, but let's leave them with that. It's like no point to keep beating around the bush. Unfortunately, you got to come over to Rockfin to take a look at this. But for those that don't want to come over to Rockfin, I respect that. Here's the thing. Go to My Movies Plus. Is that the best spot to watch the real time right now, right?
Yes.
Go to My Movies Plus. Stop renting movies on Prime and all that. My Movies Plus has a band section. They got good documentaries. I mean, Fluvid-19 and Next Level's on there. I'm just throwing her out there, but even Level's free, guys. So My Movies Plus is cool. It goes in the smart TV, but go check out the real timeline right now, and you will not be disappointed. We break it down from the beginning of the PSYOP to the end of the PSYOP, and we're showing you a timeline and real events in real time with body cams and all the fuckery that the news has never shown you. They've never even pretended to show you these clips. And this woman went all in on this and found everything you need to put an investigative documentary together. And together we nailed it. And I've never heard one bad thing about the film or the content or the information. All people do with that film is go, wow, that thing was a complete PSYOP. I had no idea. So make sure you guys go check that out. The links will be in the description. Maryam, thank you for joining us on the YouTube version.
Thank you.
And everyone, I will see you over at Rockfin. See you then.